I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good with or without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull-up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
The Indiana Fever just pulled off what most people thought was impossible. Half their roster is banged up, Caitlin Clark is out, Sophie Cunningham is sidelined, and other key players are missing. On paper, this team should have folded weeks ago, but instead, they found something different, something deeper. They found grit, identity, and a leader in Kelsey Mitchell who refuses to let this season be defined by injuries. What happened in that locker room after the Minnesota game told us everything we need to know about where this team is headed. Think about it, most teams lose their superstar and start spiraling into excuses. If only we were healthy, if only we had our roster back. The Fever went the other way. Coach Stephanie White drilled it into them. Stop worrying about who's out, start focusing on who's stepping up. And suddenly, players who were supposed to just fill minutes are turning into legitimate contributors. The mindset shifted from we're undermanned to we're not going anywhere. And then came the Minnesota game, a matchup that was supposed to expose Indiana's thin roster and remind everyone of what they'd lost without Clark and company.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. It's there's a work ethic and there's a work style. And to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
Instead, the Fever flipped the script from the opening tip. Indiana closed out the regular season with an 83-72 win over Minnesota. No Nafisa Collier for the Lynx that night. They stormed out with a 10-point run before the Lynx even knew what hit them, led by double digits after the first quarter, and never really let Minnesota back in the fight. This wasn't the kind of just hang on and hope survival basketball people expected. No, this was control. This was swagger. This was a team that basically told the league, we don't care who doubts us, we're not going anywhere. Kelsey Mitchell once again carried the scoring torch, knocking down her usual buckets and, in the process, cementing her spot in the history books as the first Fever player ever to average more than 20 points per game across an entire season. That's not just a milestone, it's a rewriting of what this franchise thought was even possible from a scorer. Then there was Aliyah Boston, doing exactly what she does best, owning the paint. She didn't just rebound, she demolished her own single-season record, grabbing everything in sight and forcing the Lynx to double her nearly every trip down the floor.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah.
You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Off the bench, Odyssey Sims looked like a player who'd been waiting her whole career for this moment. She dropped 15 points with a mix of pull-ups and drives that had Minnesota scrambling. Every time the Lynx tried to cut into the lead, Sims answered like she was saying, not today. Add in aerial powers drilling back-to-back threes to crush any comeback hopes. And you had a rotation where everyone, starter or reserve, was making an impact. And that's what stood out most. It wasn't just one or two players dragging Indiana to the finish line. It was contributions from everywhere. From Lexi Hull flying around on defense, contesting shots, and switching onto bigger forwards, to Natasha Howard quietly balancing the front court alongside Boston. This team showed layers. For once, it didn't look like Indiana was patching holes. It looked like they were building a machine. But maybe the most important number of the night wasn't Mitchell's points, Boston's rebounds, or Sims' spark off the bench.
Kelsey, how much pride do you take in the fact that you started in every game now for 2 straight years, and on top of that, you're now the points per game leader in franchise history?
Man, I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm never gonna give up. I'm never gonna. If I'm able, willingly, 2 feet, 2 legs, 2 arms to play the game, because a lot of people can't, I'm gonna play. It may not, fall my way all the time, but you never have to worry about me not being present, especially if I don't have anywhere else to be. So that's just what that is. I'm never gonna not play and compete. You're never not gonna see me sit out if I don't need to. And so it's just about staying. I obviously having rhythm and being who I want to be, but I'm all about basketball when it comes to like just finishing it out.
It was the final score, a win. And not just any win, it locked in Indiana's first winning record in a decade. 10 years of frustration, missed playoffs, and rebuilding years, all erased in one night. That victory wasn't just about the standings. It was a statement that this team, bruised and battered as they may be, has finally stepped out of the shadow of rebuilding and into the light of being a legitimate playoff contender. The ripple effects were immediate. Fans flooded social media, calling this the most fun they've had watching Fever basketball in years. Resale ticket prices for upcoming games spiked overnight as supporters scrambled to see what this new-look squad could do next. Media outlets who were already prepping Fever collapse, headlines suddenly had to rewrite their scripts. Instead of doom and gloom about injuries, the talk turned into whether Kelsey Mitchell deserves MVP consideration, and if Aliyah Boston is on her way to becoming the most dominant center in the WNBA.
Here comes Sims, pedaling into the paint, leaning and hitting a 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana, and Minnesota wants a timeout. Caitlin Clark knows it.
What was supposed to be another chapter in Indiana's struggle became the moment the Fever officially forced their way back into the league-wide conversation. So you must be wondering, what exactly did Kelsey Mitchell say? She kept it simple. You've seen our growth. For words that landed harder than any highlight. Because it wasn't about her stats, her records, or her spotlight. It was about the team, a group everyone counted out, proving they could adapt, stick together, and rise even when half the roster was missing. No excuses. We're here now. That's not a highlight you see on SportsCenter, but it's the kind of leadership that changes everything. It wasn't about the points she scored or the record she set. It was about planting a flag and saying this team is not just limping into the postseason, they're stepping into it on their own terms. And let's be honest, this is exactly what Indiana needed. They could have spent the last stretch of the season sulking about what they lost. Instead, they're building something stronger than one superstar. This team is learning how to win with balance, with depth, and with defense. They've proven they can move the ball, close out quarters, and stay tough when the pressure mounts. It's not pretty, but it's real, and it's working.
It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And, these are things that you have to go through. I often say there's no substitute for experience, and the experience that these guys have had to have to continue to reinvent, to have to continue to find different ways to get back up and to play through some different struggles is not just paying us dividends this season, but as far as what it's doing for our culture, it's going to pay dividends for many years to come.
So here's my question for you. Do you think the Fever's resurgence is more about Kelsey Mitchell stepping into that franchise leader role, or is it about the supporting cast finally rising up? Drop your answer in the comments, because this one's going to spark some debate. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The Fever's 24 wins this year aren't just numbers on a page. They're a statement. They've already made history by flipping their first winning season since 2015, and now they're heading into the playoffs without fear. Aliyah Boston is anchoring the paint, Mitchell is torching nets, and role players are stepping up when it matters most. That's not luck. That's culture. That's belief. Of course, the playoffs will be the real test. Winning in the regular season when teams are juggling travel, fatigue, and patchwork rotations is one thing. But when the lights are brighter and the series format shifts to best of 3 or best of 5, everything changes. Scouting reports get brutally specific. Coaches dissect every possession, every tendency, every weakness. That's when depth matters most, because there's no hiding when an opponent has 3 straight games to figure you out. The Fever won't be sneaking up on anyone anymore. They'll have to prove they can withstand targeted game plans designed to shut down Mitchell, clog Boston in the paint, and dare the role players to win it. And yet, that's exactly why this team feels dangerous. If Mitchell keeps torching defenses at a franchise record pace, if Boston keeps cleaning the glass like a one-woman wrecking crew, and if players like Sims, Powers, and Hull keep putting up double-digit nights, who's to say Indiana can't punch a heavyweight right in the mouth and steal a first-round series? The beauty of this roster is balance. The playoffs are usually dominated by teams built around one superstar, but Indiana has quietly crafted a collective force. When defenses crowd Mitchell, Boston stretches the floor, and the bench players hit big shots. It creates a ripple effect that forces opponents to adjust constantly, something the Lynx learned the hard way. There's a confidence in this squad now that wasn't there before. It's the kind of belief that says, we can survive anything. And honestly, that's scary for anyone who thought Indiana would be an easy out without Caitlin Clark. And that's the part that really makes me laugh. Just a month ago, the narrative around Indiana was as bleak as it gets. Without Caitlin Clark, the Fever are cooked. Experts were writing eulogies for their season. Fans were bracing for another wasted year. And now, those same voices are scrambling to explain how this supposedly finished team is strutting into the playoffs with 3 straight wins, momentum, and a swagger nobody saw coming. The irony is delicious. The league spent all summer panicking about ratings without their golden rookie, clutching their pearls about what happens if Clark isn't on the floor. Meanwhile, the Fever were quietly building something scarier, a team that no longer lives and dies by one player, but thrives as a unit. And let's be honest, that might be the worst-case scenario for every opponent left standing. So let's wrap it up here. The Fever aren't pretending anymore. They're not asking for sympathy, they're not clinging to what could have been, and they're not waiting for a miracle. They're writing their own story. The question is simple. Will this be the underdog tale that defines the playoffs, or will it be the hard-earned lesson that sets them up for years to come? One thing's for sure, this locker room believes. And maybe, just maybe, we should too. If you're riding with this team, drop a Fever Fire emoji in the comments to show your support. And if you want more raw breakdowns like this, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started.